Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Ooh, boy. I'm telling you, man.
You got a pube in your throat?
Hey, jeez, man. Must be several. Cinema Classics is brought to you by the Gateway Film Center, 1550 North High Street, Columbus, Ohio. Further details and showtimes online at gatewayfilmcenter.org.
The award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org and like our page on Facebook. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
Oh boy.
I'm going to say something that's going to shock you. Given that Ben Affleck's Live by Night is in theaters,
yes,
I'm going to, we're going to talk about gangster movies.
Yes, we are.
Here's my statement.
Okay.
Prepare yourself.
All right.
There are only a few great gangster movies, ever.
Well, I'm not.
You're not shocked by that?
No, I got a half a dozen.
Yeah, not many.
Yeah.
Is that interesting?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't you think that when you think of it as a genre, gangster movies, that there must be like dozens, or even maybe 50 or 60 great ones?
Would you say the same about Westerns?
No, I think there are a lot. I think actually there are a lot more Westerns have been made than gangster movies.
Yeah, but as far as quality ones?
There are more great Westerns.
Okay, yeah. All right, gangster films.
Yeah.
Well, we'll try to place Ben Affleck's movie next time.
Okay.
In the context of the dump months.
Yeah, you're right. The dump ones.
Because I've seen it.
Where Hollywood takes a big dump. Yeah.
All right, so the big gangster film against which you could set everything else would be?
The Godfather.
All right. Okay.
The Godfathers 1 and 2.
Okay, all right. So in the case of the Corleone...
And Goodfellas. I would say that is the triumvirate of gangster movies. Godfathers 1 and 2 and Goodfellas.
All right, okay.
Everything else has to be matched up against those.
Now, would you even consider Pulp Fiction?
No.
Oh, okay, because
my definition of a gangster movie is that there's organized crime.
Okay.
And not just like vague dudes running around in black suits. That does not a gangster movie make. There needs to be some, bulk of the narrative must be wrapped around organization.
Right. It's a societal thing, and you're so on target with Live by Night, because that's part of the tension in the film, is that the central character does not want to be a gangster, but he acts just like one. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to belong to that organization. He doesn't want to be considered a gangster, when in fact, in the broadest terms, he is.
Yeah.
But that's a good distinction, because that makes the difference. Pulp Fiction, these guys are kind of rogues.
Right.
Yeah,
and when you look early on, at the beginnings of gangster movies, you have all that stuff, but it's mostly centered around usually Irish mob, don't you think?
Yeah.
James Cagney, the James Cagney movies, Public Enemy.
Yeah. White Heat.
White Heat.
Yeah.
Well, that one came a little later. The Bogart movies of the early, the Roaring '20s.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That is great. The Tommy Gun era.
Yeah, that's great. And Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas.
You got a couple of top dudes
in that.
I think
Goodfellas, yeah, I mean, come on. It's in the triumvirate, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Goodfellas is Scorsese's, masterwork, one of his masterworks. But I think that movie is, he made it in stark stylistic contrast to the Godfather movies.
Okay.
He's dealing with a different era.
Yeah.
So naturally there's going to be gaudy sets, because it takes place in the 60s and the 70s. It just stylistically, the bursts of violence, the sort of nitty-gritty, down and dirty, daily dealings of the gangsters is what he's really, like, operatically setting in motion.
And one of the things that I really appreciate about his approach is that there is a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's darkly funny.
Yes, it is.
It's darkly funny and, and scary. Yeah. I think if you can remember, I remember seeing Goodfellas for the first time as a college student, and Joe Pesci's character really frightened me. He was at once, you wanted to like him, but his bursts of violence in particular, when he shoots Michael Imperioli as Spider. He shoots him down in the little. They're playing poker. That action at the time was horrifying, especially in a movie that was kind of a little bit funny. It was like there was some lightness to it.
Yeah.
It was horrifying. Think back on that act now. We attribute those kind of casual acts of violence to Tarantino, but I think you could actually pinpoint it to that moment, and it changed cinema. I mean, we see that all the time now, and it doesn't hold quite as much weight anymore.
Well, we so much associated the darkness and the malevolence to the gangster films early on that I just think the progression of it is into a more sophisticated form that allows other tropes to get in there.
Yeah.
And makes, I think, a richer experience. Even Miller's Crossing I had in here for some reason.
Miller's Crossing is one of the greats. If I was going to put a fourth one up there,
okay, yeah,
it would be Miller's Crossing.
yeah.
Miller, and I don't know. I was going to ask you this: what do you think is the last great gangster movie?
Oh gosh.
I mean, we can go back and talk about, you know, the Cagney movies, and then
Would you
Mean Streets and that stuff.
Donnie
Miller's Crossing.
Brasco stuff?
Yeah, what would the last great gangster movie be?
I don't know. You
Is
know
it
what I'm
Donnie
thinking?
Brasco?
But you know what I'm thinking?
Yeah, what?
TV's changing this whole paradigm.
How so?
The long-term TV, it would
Boardwalk.
Boardwalk, right? Would Boardwalk Empire qualify as to a way of changing so that a contemporary gangster movie may not have the impact because we've been, I don't know, spoiled?
So, okay, so basically, I see what you're saying. I think that, well, we have to talk about The Sopranos then as well.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The Sopranos
exactly,
and
yeah.
Boardwalk Empire take long-form narrative.
Yeah.
But, I mean, let's face it, the narrative that they're picking up was laid down by these films, The Godfather and Goodfellas.
But you're asking a good question. What was the last great mob film?
I would have to say
film?
it was either Donnie Brasco or Casino. And if I had to
Oh,
choose one or
yeah,
the other, I would
yeah.
say Casino.
Okay.
Casino doesn't get as much attention or love as Goodfellas because it's a good solid hour longer, and it's a little different. And it seems like you're taking some of the same characters and just populating them into different roles. You know.
How do you fit Tony Montana into this? And there, I say that because I think most of the gangster films we've talked about are ones where you have a Ray Liotta type of character who's trying to move up in the organization.
Yeah.
But Tony was just taking over, wasn't he?
So I'm glad you brought that up. So that's De Palma, Scarface, De Palma's Scarface, which was, at the time, a sort of, it was a successful movie, but it was sort of critically dismissed as excessive and, you know, too long and all this stuff. Over the years, obviously, it's gained a cult following. That's what makes it great, are the excesses. And, you know, it's De Palma. He operates in a more operatic vein.
Yeah, that's good.
Which, I'm glad you brought that up because if I had to put a number 5,
okay,
and now I'm losing track of what's, I would say De Palma's The Untouchables.
Oh,
Is
Oh.
probably
Oh.
is one of the greatest, not only movies made, but certainly one of the great gangster movies.
And interesting because the emphasis kind of shifts away from the gang.
Right.
And that's really an interesting perspective.
It is,
Hadn't
yeah.
had that before.
Now we're getting a gangster movie, and that's really interesting because in the era of James Cagney movies, you know, when the the Hays Code, the ratings board stepped in at that time, they hated the glorification of the gangster, of Cagney's gangster, right? So they forced him to start playing G-men.
Yes.
You know, so he went to the other side. So in a way, The Untouchables is hearkening back to that earlier period.
And Live by Night attempts to fuse the two because Brendan Gleeson plays the dad, who is an Irish cop and a good guy, and his son, played by Affleck, has gone bad.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, the best parts of that movie are with Brendan Gleeson, which you know, he always is
Yeah.
terrific. So.
Yeah.
But anyway, mixing those motifs is really interesting, and it maybe shows a good evolution
Mm-hmm.
of the genre. Because when you go back to those days of Cagney, it's a pretty solo run,
Right.
and you can
It
do
was
that
like,
on
yeah,
so
it was
much.
James Cagney and Paul Muni. Paul Muni played Scarface originally, right? So, one last question.
Yeah.
What about Bugsy? Do you remember Bugsy?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Warren Beatty as
Yeah,
Bugsy
very
Siegel?
stylized, I thought.
Barry Levinson, yeah.
Yeah.
More romantic because of
Yes,
his Hollywood
yeah.
ties.
And Bonnie and Clyde wouldn't be in our mix because they're again working solo.
Yeah, that's more. I can't see it as a gangster movie.
Right, right. Though someone might.
Someone might, yeah. Anybody that's like an outlaw with a Tommy gun, they get shoved into the gangster genre. But again, without that element of organized crime, without the element of this society operating underneath of us, alongside of us, with all this glamour and these rules, that's what really makes the gangster movie, right? It's the rules. Who's gonna get whacked for why? Who can do it? Who's allowed to do it? Who's going to get mad when they do it? What repercussions it's going to have? You know, how it echoes through the organization.
Yes.
That stuff is what makes it fascinating and what hypnotizes us.
Well, the NPR rules are our show is over.
Ah.